What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes, and this is gonna be my comprehensive analysis on G Duel Cavalry 4, the best users of it, and I'll also give you a tier list for both free-to-play units and also the premium units who make the best use of this skill. And I'll also go over the builds and pretty much explain my thought process. If you do enjoy these kinds of in-depth videos which I've made for every single dual skill, I would really appreciate if you could leave a like and subscribe, and with that said, let us begin. So G Duel Cavalry 4 finds itself on the mythic hero AETHER, and this means that it's a much harder task to actually get this skill compared to a seasonal banner or even a regular banner where you can just spark after 40 summons. And the odds are gonna be pretty annoying on a mythic banner where it's notoriously hard to get one specific unit that you're trying to snipe off. But still, AETHER does color share with some good units like Legendary Byleth, who also provide you value, and there's also Legendary Celica. So it pretty much depends on which color sharing you like more. He's gonna be returning back in January of 2022, so you could wait and see if the green color sharing along with AETHER is gonna be favorable for you or not. So Duel Cavalry skills basically give you plus 5 HP and plus 2 to all of your stats, and make your unit score like 180 BST in the Colosseum game modes. If they're legendary or mythic units, then it makes them score like 175 BST units. And that's why this skill is completely worthless on AETHER, because with just the attack super boon, he can already reach 175 BST at unmerged, so this skill does nothing for him. With that out of the way, let us begin with the best users of this in the free-to-play poll. And by the thumbnail, you can probably guess who's going to be the best free-to-play user of this skill, and that's right, it's going to be Cecilia. So Cecilia often gets underrated, but her weapon refine is actually really good for making her into a specialist, and a very deadly specialist. So Tome of Order is a Raven Tome with Triangle Adept built into it, and it also provides her with the effective damage against flying units. So Cecilia specializes in absolutely decimating colorless units, blue units, and flying units. And that's a pretty nice coverage. She is going to be winning a lot against the units that she's supposed to be facing. And of course, she doesn't have to face any kind of red unit, but the units that she's going to be attacking, she's going to be winning those matchups. And you'll see in a moment what I mean by that. So the first build is the ideal build in my opinion. Lull attack resistance is really good so that she can one-shot the units. Joint drive attack and attack defense farm give her the extra throughput. Now, I am going to be showing you the calcs of how she does against the whale units at plus 10 merge at max investment with full buffs on them. So here's the calculations, the simulations of a free-to-play Cecilia with G Duel Cavalry 4. And, you know, we have Legendary Julia with really high resistance, but it doesn't matter because Cecilia is gonna just absolutely destroy her. Legendary Chrom with his ideal and optimal build, which is a speedy Chrom build that can even kill many of the green units, but not Cecilia. Cecilia just one-shots him, and that's the end of Chrom. Doesn't matter how invested Legendary Chrom is, he's gonna be dying. Legendary Leaf just absolutely dies without doing any kind of damage. He does like 2 damage, and that's pretty much it. Legendary Alm at max investment also fails to do any kind of significant damage, even with Blade Session Sacred Seal on him that can give him the max throughput. Bride Micaiah has got the effective damage, so she does quite a lot of damage to Cecilia, but Cecilia is just gonna kill her in the enemy phase. Cyan Leaf, who is a new unit, has Miracle built into his weapon, but after he triggers Near and Seal, he's gonna be dying. Ninja Lin with plus attack speed catch, and all of the offensive throughput from Blade Session can not really kill Cecilia, and she'll just get one shot back. Unfortunately, Legendary Claude has got the cheating Fallen Star, so doesn't matter that Cecilia has got the weapon strangle advantage or the effective damage. He's still gonna be living, but at least our Cecilia can survive. It's not that common to survive a combat against Legendary Claude, especially when he has got Deadeye, which does so much damage, and he's also max invested. Yeah, Resplendent Micaiah, despite the blue color, is just a beast, honestly, and Legendary Micaiah also hits incredibly hard, so she cannot enemy face these 2 Micaiahs. And you might say that there are a lot of units who could do this, but keep in mind, you are not going to be finding a free-to-play unit who can enemy face these kinds of units. And enemy phasing is a really big deal because oftentimes these units are going to be having overlapping ranges, and it's pretty easy to say on paper that, oh, just go and kill this frail unit, but that's not how it works in Arena. You'll have to bait them out, and baiting them out is a very risky move because they are going to be at max investment and they will kill your units, but Cecilia can easily bait out so many units despite being a free-to-play unit and can just one-shot them back. It doesn't even matter that she cannot double them, she will just one-shot because of her sheer power. And that's where lull attack resistance really comes into the play of just neutralizing the buffs that these units will have, because in Arena everyone is going to be running the rally skills. You could even run Blue Flame or Aether if you want to. Ruptured Sky is not like a compulsory thing, but it's a low cooldown special and it can help you in some of the matchups, like against Fallen Edelgard of course. And there's really no other free-to-play unit who can bait out these kinds of monsters in the enemy phase, and even bait out like multiple of these, because even one of these units like Legendary Leaf, Legendary Crom combined don't really do any damage to Cecilia, and she can easily take on both of them at the same time. So that is extremely impressive, and you should not be sleeping on Cecilia. Now, keep in mind that this is the optimal build, but there's not only one way of running Cecilia. You can also run her with AR Fortress and a Menace skill. So this allows you to have a better control in the player phase, but I feel like it's easier to function in the player phase in Arena than it is to function in enemy phase. It's very hard to bait out these kinds of monsters, especially with a free-to-play unit. Still, if you want to have that kind of trace skill in the player phase, it's an option, but keep in mind, she will be losing some of the matchups where the foes are buffed because the lull skill is not going to be helping you. So to counteract that, you can maybe have some kind of panic support on your team, like maybe a Versa, or maybe you could have sudden panic or something like that. A Ruse skill could also help you because you're going to be stopping their specials, so Cecilia could have a bit more bulk if you decide to just use Cecilia in a mix phase and have her bait out in the enemy phase and then attack with the trace skill in the player phase. Fortress skill on Cecilia can pretty much allow you to retreat after you've hit something. Like if you're against a Fallen Edelgard and if you just use one movement and 2 of your movement is left, after you have attacked Fallen Edelgard, you can simply retreat with the Fortress skill, which of course the lull attack resistance Cecilia is not able to do. So it pretty much gives you more options in the player phase. And then we've got Lex, and he's basically the best physical free-to-play green cavalier who can run this dual skill because of his Goddess Axe being a dual phase brave weapon, and he also has extremely high bulk, extremely high defense I should say. He doesn't have a lot of resistance, but against many of the physical threats, even at +10 merge, Lex can easily handle them, and he also has really nice attack power with plus attack IV and combining attack defense solo, menace, and the Neo Trace skill. You can also run the lull attack skill if you want to, but still you could do fine with it. And the fact that he's got the brave weapon means that he can even kill units like Legendary Claude after they have got their Fallen Star active because he has got the brave hit. So that's extremely useful. And in the enemy phase as well, he can basically retaliate back with Ruptured Sky on his second brave hit, and that's going to be killing a lot of units. So Lex is a pretty nice investment in terms of a physical green cavalry unit from the free-to-play pool. Rath and Python are extremely popular merge projects for Aetherite's defense because they are green cavaliers, and they also have better matchup against Brave Hector compared to a lot of the free-to-play bow cavaliers, so they're going to be present in many people's barracks at +10. And while they're no Cecilia, they can still be a very powerful asset in Arena because they can use either the Trace skill or the lull skill, and the abundance of extremely useful bows like Spendthrift Bow, Plegian Bow, Reindeer Bow, Sunflower Bow. So many of these bows are going to be extremely good, and you can use any of it. Of course, Spendthrift Bow does give you the extra bulk and extra attack, but unfortunately, you'll be locked to using a 2-turn special like Ruptured Sky. And you could run a lull skill in slot B if you want to just take care of the visible buffs of the opponent, and a menace skill is going to be extremely useful on them. And because they do not have a preferred weapon, you should be running a 300 SP slot C skill. It could be a joint drive skill or a menace skill, but I do prefer the menace skill a bit more. And you can run attack speed solo as their secret seal. Plegian Bow is of course a fantastic option if you're running attack defense menace, and you can also run the Fortress skill, which you can obtain from the Ashen Wolf's banner with a spark. And Deadeye can be an option if you're not running Spendthrift Bow because they're cavaliers, they cannot have access to Time Pulse, so a 3 cooldown special is not that ideal for Spendthrift Bow build. But with the Plegian Bow, you're going to be having some nice attack power, and that's pretty much what you need for Deadeye. You need to have a hard-hitting archer, and with plus attack, the debuffs, Plegian Bow, everything else is going to be helping you with that. So Picnic Leo is not going to be as good as Cecilia, and that is given, but still he can function as a bulky Green Mage Cavalier who can bait out some of the units, and Plegian Torch is absolutely needed to get the max performance out of him with a menace skill. You can also make use of the MAT Blooms weapon from Valentine Alphonse, but Plegian Torch is simply better with the Menace skill and provides you with more bulk and more firepower at the cost of being alone and also not giving you any kind of healing. But as it is, because he's slow, he's gonna get doubled a lot, so you could just run Aether as your special to get some healing. Now we move on to some of the Axe Cavaliers, and Plegian Male Kris and Saleh are pretty much like Rath and Python. Both of these are pretty interchangeable. You basically invest into the one which you like a lot more because they are essentially side grades to each other. Plegian Male Kris has Plegian Axe, and of course that has fantastic synergy with the Menace skill, and you can basically use him as a Gale Force unit because of the attack debuffs that Plegian Axe provides you with, and you can stack it up with low attack defense and its in combat debuffs. Gale Force Axe Cavaliers can give you pretty nice mobility, but if you just want to have Dex Swabber, then that's also an option with a special like Ruptured Sky. Flow Refresh and Attack Defense Menace can be inherited from Otter at the same time, but you would basically need to pull for 2 Otters if you want to have the dual skill as well as his other slot B and slot C skill. But that's an option, and Flow Refresh is going to be a nice way of just piercing through the follow-up negation skills in the player phase, and then Dex Swabber can provide you with the lull effect. So you basically have the combination of the lull skill and a partial null follow-up, which is extremely good. And you need to be solo, so that's why the solo Sacred Seals are ideal on these kinds of Cavaliers who are going to be away from their allies. And that applies a lot more to Walhart, the Conqueror. So he has got Wolfberg, which is going to be due for Weapon Refine. Right now, he's not like too good. Like there's Male Kris and Saleh who can pretty much do the same offensive role, especially like Male Kris, as you can see, with a lot more speed. But whenever Wolfberg gets a Weapon Refine, he can definitely be pretty nice unit. And he was also a pharma option, so some Walhart fans might have him already at +10 merge. And a premium build is going to be required for him before he gets a Weapon Refine. And Walhart doesn't get an auto follow-up, and he's kind of slow. So you pretty much have to invest all into his speed stat, because if you're going to be using him as a slow unit, then Lex pretty much does the job a lot better. So that's why you pretty much need to invest into his speed. If his Weapon Refine gives him an auto follow-up, then yeah, you don't have to invest into speed. But right now, this is pretty much the ideal build in my opinion, with the Near Trace skill, the Menace skill, and the Solo skill. Having shown some of the examples that you can run on these Cavaliers, let's move on to my free-to-play G Duel Cavalry 4 rankings or tier list. So in tier 1, there's going to be Cecilia. She is just above her competition. There's no free-to-play Green Cavalier that can even come close to her performance. She's just absolutely amazing. And even when competing with some of the premium units, she's going to be a really standout investment. And I already know some of my mutuals who are like whales. They have +10 merge legendary units and stuff like that, and they're still going to be investing into Cecilia despite them being able to afford a lot of premium mage cavaliers. So that is power of Cecilia. Absolutely uncontested best free to play unit for Green Duel Cavalry 4 and tier 1 unit. Then in tier 2 we have got Lex. His physical bulk is really amazing. The dual phase Brave Axe is really good. And then we also have Picnic Leo. Now even though he's not as good as Cecilia, at the end of the day, he's still a range unit, and that is really useful in Arena because a range unit, especially a cavalry unit, is going to be having a big threat range. And because of the big threat range, the AI is basically going to be looping in rallies and stuff like that. So you can basically alleviate some of the pressure if you just have a range unit, like a cavalry range unit like Cecilia or Leo. So that's why he is going to be finding himself in tier 2, despite the fact that he just utterly gets outclassed by Cecilia. Still, it's an option if you're a big Leo fan. And then we have got Rath and Python. Both of them are side grades. Both of them can be good with a trace skill or a lull skill. Of course, hitting the magical side like Cecilia is a lot more preferable, but still they're a decent investment. And then we've got the 2 Grail Cavaliers, Plegian Male Kris and Spring Saleh. Again, these are pretty much the 2 side grades. You invest into the one which you like more. Then we have got Groom Zealot and Walhart. So Groom Zealot pretty much has like a modern Frederick, modern Walhart kind of stat line. Of course, he's got a lot more resistance than both of them, but still he can be a decent option, but not as good as Lex, Kris, or Saleh in my opinion, because all of them have unique things. Kris and Saleh have the speed, and Lex has a dual phase brave weapon. Walhart can easily go up to tier 2 if he gets a really good weapon refine, so gonna be waiting for that. But as of right now, before his refine, he is finding himself in tier 4. And then in tier 5, we have got Gunnthra, Frederick, and Groomarth, and Titania. These Cavaliers lack the offensive prowess compared to the Cavaliers above them who can do the things better or just have better weapons or unique niche. Now we move on to the premium investment, and from the thumbnail you can already tell who's going to be on top of my premium investment list, and that is going to be Gunnthra. So she is a delete button after her weapon refine and her legendary hero remix. So she's a legendary unit which is extremely good because if you have her at plus and merge, then she's going to be helping you in scoring in the win season. And she's not actually that bad of a unit in terms of scoring as an old legendary unit because she's got a 300 SP slot B skill. So if you run a dual skill and run a 300 SP slot C skill, then she pretty much scores as if she was 180 BST, and that is pretty good for an old unit who can appear in the remix banners, and you can slowly build up the merges on her. And she is a delete button. She's no joke when it comes to combat. She provides amazing support with Chilling Seal too, even if she's not going to be entering in the combat herself. The debuffs are extremely good. And again, if you run Panic on your team along with Gunnthra, then keep in mind that the Panic debuffs and the debuffs that she does from Chilling Seal do actually stack up. So that is even more damage from her Blizzard Tome, which is basically a Broadly fan combined with a Plegian weapon, and that is extremely strong, and she is going to be doing so much damage. But unfortunately, there are going to be some matchups where, against Brave Hector and stuff like that, units who have got skills that can neutralize debuffs are going to be giving her a hard time. But nonetheless, an insanely good unit who excels in combat as well as in support, and also has fantastic mobility and is a legendary unit. And then we've got Summer Caeda, and Summer Caeda has got the effective damage from Dolphin Dive Axe, which is extremely good for the damage output and for just killing the units outright. And Flow Refresh is a fantastic combo with it because she doesn't really have to run a trace skill as she's got Canto built into her weapon. So that allows you to have some great mobility as well as having really good firepower because of the effective damage. And Panic Smoke could be run, or you could just run some other premium skill. Panic Smoke is not that bad of an option in Arena because people do run visible buffs, but you of course have to enter the combat to trigger the panic, unlike Sudden Panic or Panic Ploy. And then we've got Freyja. Now again, there's gonna be a disclaimer like I did in my G Duel Infantry 4 video. Only invest with your G Duel Cavalry 4 in Freyja after calculating and experimenting with your team score. If she increases your team score by 2 points, and if you think it's worth it, then you can go with G Duel Cavalry 4 if you're just trying to maximize your scoring. But if you don't really care about the small bump in score, or if she doesn't even give you the bump in your score, depending on your team, then yeah, she could just run some other premium slotty skill and not bother with the dual skill. But this is basically for the people who are trying to just maximize their overall score. So again, a disclaimer, do not blindly invest into Freyja with G Duel Cavalry 4. Check the arena calculator in the description, play around with it and see if your team actually needs it or even benefits from the score bump that Freyja gets after G Duel Cavalry 4. Because keep in mind that mythic units can only get 175 BST from the G Duel Cavalry 4 skill. So the difference is going to be a bit marginal. Depends from player to player if it's even worth it for them. So Freyja is actually a pretty fantastic unit in Arena. I would say more so than she is in Aether raids because of Binding Necklace. So buffs are obviously so common in Arena, and Binding Necklace basically allows her to copy all of those buffs from the opponent and add to her in combat. And that makes her combat extremely good. And there's also the fact that she's got distant counter present in her weapon. So she doesn't really lose out on that. She can be a physical unit who has got distant counter to bait out the ranged units. She can easily bait out units like Legendary Crom and Legendary Leaf and stuff like that. But keep in mind, being a beast unit means that you're going to be target of Ruptured Sky. Now, a lot of units in Arena are going to be using Ruptured Sky as their 2-turn cooldown special, and that does more damage on beast units. So Freyja has to watch out for that. Ninja Lin being an example, who runs Ruptured Sky with her Brave weapon. So Freyja is a pretty fantastic unit, having that damage reduction, distant counter, and Binding Necklace, being an extremely unique option for Arena, and definitely pretty solid if you've got some beast or dragon units in your core that can let her transform, because she's going to be getting the impact effect in player phase, and she can easily function in both phases. Pirate Veronica is a bulky Axe Cavalier on both spectrums, and she also gets the auto double from Gate Anchor Axe, and it also provides her with -1 special cooldown, so she can pretty much run Ruptured Sky and have it a 1-turn special that she can instantly retaliate back with it, and even trigger it twice in a single combat when the enemy is going to be doubling. You can also run lull attack defense in her slot B so that she doesn't really care about the visible buffs of the opponent to their attack stat and do a lot of damage to their defense stat. A menace skill is ideal, but you can still run a joint drive skill, but keep in mind that she needs to be solo to get her weapon active. I kinda wish that Gate Anchor Axe, instead of giving her the extra defense and resistance, inflicted -6 attack debuff on the opponent instead, and that would have made it a bit better if you wanted to use Heavy Blade and Gale Force with her. It's also worth noting that boosting up her speed is going to be pretty helpful against many of the units who have follow-up negation skills, so Pyre Veronica is going to be able to double them if she just wins the speed check. So attack speed solo could be an option as well after you use a rally skill or something like that, just to have a bit more longevity to prevent some doubles and also to double the slow units with follow-up negation. Kaden is actually a fantastic investment for Arena in terms of support because of Kitsune Fang and the fact that you're pretty much going to be running the rally skills in Arena. So that is just really fantastic. Unfortunately, you cannot really run a Link skill, but you can just run a Ruse skill to provide even more support. And Kaden can provide support to any ally within 2 spaces. So you can just buff him up and he can support the allies, even multiple allies at the same time. So that is very unique in terms of a Green Cavalier. And then we've got Thunderhead Olwen with that Blade Tome Thunderhead. And Blade Tomes have fallen off a bit because of the lull skills and panics. And in Arena, you're going to be seeing some lull skills, but still she can be a very powerful unit with that Blade Tome if you just buff her up, and can definitely help you one-shot many of the units. So she's a powerful option, just invest into her attack. You can run a lull skill on her, but also a trace skill is fine in the player phase just to get some mobility. And Attack Res Menace is really fantastic on a unit like her who appreciates having the buffs to herself and also can get more damage output out of it. Then we've got some of the Mage Cavaliers, and Winter Bernadetta is extremely unique in Arena just like she is in Aether Raids, and that's because of her preferred weapon Priest that can do 1 damage to the allies. Like Brave Lysithea can basically have her weapon active from the start, and if you're using Legendary Micaiah, then she can basically get into the threshold range of her weapon by using her sacrifice. So the 1 damage is extremely good for triggering some of those weapons and can be useful and really unique because no other unit can really do what Winter Bernadetta does. And in the combat, she's no slouch either. She can have pretty nice offenses, and she also has that damage reduction, so that can help her survive. A Fortress skill is going to be pretty nice in the player phase, but she can also use the default lull skill that she comes with. And then we've got Summer Selena, who pretty much has the exotic fruit juice, which has the Daunt effect, the rain effect I guess, in terms of speed and defense debuff. So her allies can also benefit from this, and she herself is basically gonna be purely an offense unit in the player phase. So again, lull skill or a Fortress skill is an option, and you can try to just maximize her throughput with Blade Session, because many times she would like to be near an ally so that she can pretty much debuff the opponent with her exotic fruit juice. And finally, we have got Summer Sylvain, a pretty popular investment because he's a really popular character and he's also a 4-star focus. So he's not going to be as amazing as some of the premium Cavaliers, still he can function pretty well with his Plegian Torch build, and this is by far the best weapon for him in my opinion. Amity Blooms Plus is going to be the second best option, and his high physical bulk is kinda unlike a lot of the Mage Cavaliers who usually do not have that much defense, so that can help you in certain matchups. And now let's move on to my premium tier list for Green Duel Cavalry 4. So in tier 1, we're of course going to be having Summer Sheeta, who has got the effective damage, the passive dance from a resonant skill. Kind of depends on the teammates you have, of course, if you want to, make use of it. But still, it's pretty good, and also has Kanto. Gunnthra is the debuff queen, and Blizzard is a very strong weapon. Can provide offenses as well as the support. Freyja with Binding Necklace and Distant Counter Weapon with damage reduction is also pretty nice. In tier 2, we've got Pyre Veronica, who has got good bulk, and then we've got the 3 Mage Cavaliers, who all can pretty much provide the in-combat debuffs with their weapon, except for Bernie, who gives you the Reist damage. Kaden is basically there as a support, and a pretty nice option if you want to have some kind of support beast unit. And in tier 3, we've got the Green Mage Cavaliers, who don't exactly have a preferred weapon, so they're not really as unique as the ones above them, and they don't really have that kind of niche, but still can build up with Plegian Torch, as it is the best green inheritable tome. And Halloween La Rochelle has also been part of the recent Hall of Forms, so it's pretty possible to have premium skills on her. Yarne can function as a Gale Force unit, but he doesn't really get any extra stats from his weapon. He pretty much gets the -2 special cooldown only if he's below that HP threshold, and then he's got the standard mini impact effect. He can function with Gale Force for sure, but still it's not the best and the ideal thing. Still an option nonetheless. Near Lethe pretty much gets outclassed by Freyja, who has got Binding Necklace and a distant counter built into her weapon, unlike Lethe, who only has the damage reduction built in. Summer Volt and Sue pretty much get outclassed by Python and Rath from the free-to-play pool, and they are premium cavaliers, but their stat line are certainly not, so they can still function with premium builds, but ultimately Rath and Python are a lot easier investment and also have better stat spreads allocated overall. Then in tier 4 we have got the slow Green Mage Cavaliers, Valentine Mist, and also Valentine Lilina. So having low speed is not that ideal, especially when you don't even have a lot of bulk. So unfortunately they find themselves here. And in the bottom tier we have got Alphonse, who just gets outclassed by the Axe Cavalry units from the free-to-play pool itself because he is a very old seasonal unit without a preferred weapon, so this shouldn't really be any kind of surprise. And then we have got Ranulf in the tier 5 as well. Unfortunately, BC units live and die by their preferred weapons because they have access to no inedible weapons, and Ranulf dies because he basically has Joint Drive attack and Joint Drive defense built into his weapon, but sadly for him that is available on an inedible weapon in Love Candelabra, which you can obtain from Groom Zealot. So any Axe Cavalier can basically do the same thing as Ranulf. They're of course not going to be able to have the mini impact effect which Ranulf has got, but even then, like, Ranulf's stat line isn't too good. Like, he has got base 30 attack and he's mainly going to be functioning as a support unit, and like I said, his niche is basically available in an inedible weapon, and BC units have it really tough with their preferred weapon with how they age. And not to mention, Kaden in tier 2 pretty much blows out Ranulf out of the water when it comes to the support capabilities. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then make sure to share this video with your friends who are thinking of investing into a green cavalier with the dual skill, or they have multiple AETHERs. This video can definitely give them the perspective and help them with their decision. And if you enjoyed, then make sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously. And if you really enjoyed my videos, then you can support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a member of the YouTube channel. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members, and if you want to see more analysis like these, then make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as the dual skill is for AETHER. So that's it, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.